Hello, I'm Eric Smith, host of the Low Budget Review Show, here with another episode to talk about another book, and that is The Nightmare Girl by Jonathan Janz, published by Sam Hain. And this is going to be a different kind of review because I'm really torn on this book. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about the plot, I guess. So, what you've got is Joe Crawford and his wife Michelle and his young daughter Lily, 2 years old, are driving home, and they stop at a gas station. And while Joe's filling up the car, he sees a young mother abuse her son, who's about 2 years old, I think. And she is just smacking the crap out of this kid. Full arm cocked back, full force, hitting the kid in the face. So Joe, being the good guy that he is, intervenes. The mom goes nuts, attacks him. The kid's grandmother is there. And the mom is very young, the grandmother's very young. And both women attack Joe, and when some people try to break it up, they get attacked too. It's just craziness. So the women and the kid take off. Of course, the police are called, and the little kid gets taken away from his abusive mother, and this just all sets off a chain of events that becomes a nightmare for Joe and his family, because the young mother and her mother are part of a cult, a very strange cult, and they don't like people taking what's theirs, especially when they need that kid for something. Anyway, that's basically it. Joe steps in. This kid gets taken away from his parents, his mom and grandmother, and the mom and grandmother and their whole clan start making life hell for Joe. So like I said, I'm really torn with this book. I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Janz, and I really like the story of the book. It's a compelling story. What goes on is pretty interesting. What the let's see, the kid's name, the kid that was being abused, his name is Stevie. His mother's name is Angie Waltz, and her mother's name is Sharon. So those are your basic characters. You got Joe, his wife Michelle, their daughter Lily, and Police Chief Daryl Copeland. Those are the main cast right there. And what Angie and Sharon do, and the rest of their clan, what they do after Steve gets taken away, is pretty much insane. And while they do have reasons for doing the crazy things they do, they are crazy things. But I like the story. I like where it goes. And but I'm really torn on the characters. Joe Crawford, I really like that he's an honest man. There's tension in his marriage because he's a contractor, and he's honest in his business dealings. When he bids on a job, he bids what he thinks the job will take. He gives an honest bid, and he's always getting underbid. And his wife thinks he should play the game. He should give a lower bid, and if there's overruns, well, then that's the customer's problem. And he says, no, he's got to be honest. And I really like that about him, that he's an honest guy. But I feel that a lot of, well, maybe I shouldn't even say a lot. Some of the things he does are illogical. And I know people aren't always logical, but they're not just illogical, but in my opinion, unreasonable. So I kind of have a hard time getting behind the things that couple of things that he does. simply because I'm just like, why? Why in the world would anybody do that? That's just me. And his wife. Uh, when the when Police Chief Daryl Copeland first comes to the Crawford house to talk about what went on at the gas station, he tells the Crawfords that little Stevie was taken away. He's going to go into the foster care system. And he talks about not just the wounds that the kid sustained at the gas station from his mom smacking him in the face, but old wounds all over his body. And yet, Michelle Crawford seems to feel bad that Angie's not going to get her son back. And there's no way I can get behind that feeling. I'm not a parent, though, so, I mean, maybe that's, maybe it's a mom-to-mom thing, but there's no way I would ever want a kid given back to an abusive parent. But she kind of, at one point early on, she seems to feel bad that Angie's not going to get her kid back. So, I don't always agree with characters in books, but sometimes, I don't know, maybe I was just in the wrong mood, which is why I don't know if I could ever be a professional critic or reviewer, because so many things affect how I feel when I'm reading a book. If I'm tired, or sometimes I'm just not in the right mood for that kind of story. I can't say that was the case with this, I don't know. Because again, I really liked the story, just the characters kind of bugged me. I did like some of the dialogue, and I really did enjoy the give and take between Joe Crawford and Daryl Copeland. They become friends, and I really enjoyed the scenes with them, just kind of sitting around, talking, and it does move the story forward, but it's not all just dialogue to move the story forward. There's a lot of just give and take, a lot of banter between them, and I do like that. Another thing that kind of bugged me, and this is a very personal thing, and I suppose some people don't care, but there were a few continuity errors in the story. And maybe it's just because I've done some proofreading and some beta reading for some authors. But that kind of thing just jumps out at me. And it bugs me. And just an example, without getting too spoilery, at one point Joe Crawford goes to the home of this old couple that he's friends with. And when he gets there, he has this really bad feeling. So he gets out of his truck and he reaches behind the seat and he pulls out a crowbar. And he even smacks the crowbar in his hand to make himself feel a little better, a little more secure. And then the crowbar disappears from the rest of the scene. He goes into the house, some stuff happens, he goes upstairs, and there's a point where he literally wishes he had a weapon. Thinks about going downstairs trying to get a knife out of the kitchen. And it's like the crowbar never existed. And I don't think there's anything that says he put it down or anything. He smacks it into the palm of his hand, and then he goes into the house and it's never mentioned again. Which, again, if it was never mentioned again because it never came into use, that's one thing. But for him to specifically think about needing a weapon when he should have one in his hand because he picked it up, I don't know. That just bugs me. And there's another thing that I can't really talk about because it's kind of important to the story. But we're told one thing, then much later we're told something contradictory to that, and then a short time after that we're told the first thing again, as if we were never told the contradictory thing. I don't know if this is making any sense, but I really can't say what this one is because it's an important plot point. But that bugs me. And so, unfortunately, that detracts from my enjoyment of the book. It's well written, except for those things. Generally, it's well written. I mean, Jonathan Janz is a great writer. I believe I've reviewed 2 of his books before. Yeah, I think I've only reviewed 2 so far, and those were both fantastic. And the other stuff that I've read by him, that I read before I started doing these reviews, was really good. The story here is good. It's just I really don't like the characters for the most part. And I had some problems, again, with these little continuity errors. I know they don't bug some people. Some people don't even notice them, but they tend to jump out at me and they bug me. So, like I said, this is kind of an odd review. Typically, I just want to review things that I really, really like and pass it on. But I needed to do a review for this. I guess if continuity errors aren't going to bother you, then I'd say go ahead and pick this up. I mean, it's Jonathan Janz. It's good writing, generally. Like I said, I love the interaction between Joe Crawford and Daryl Copeland. Their banter, to me, somewhat reminiscent of the banter between the Joe Lansdale characters, Hap and Leonard, which is some of the greatest dialogue ever. So I did like that. The characters are interesting enough. I don't know. Sometimes their behavior just bugged me. And again, it might not bother you. Not being a parent, maybe I just don't get it. I know I don't think the way most people think. So it's a not a high recommendation. It's a recommendation with an asterisk. I don't know. It's Jonathan Janz. It's an interesting story. I don't want to give, as always, I'm always afraid of giving too much away. But the whole Waltz, Angie Waltz, Sharon Waltz clan is very interesting. What's going on with their clan is very interesting, and what they have in store for Joe Crawford and his family is very interesting. Just some of it bugged me. And maybe it's considering how much I really love the other stuff by Jonathan Janz that I've read that, I try not to have expectations, but, maybe that accounts a bit for my disappointment. But that's The Nightmare Girl by Jonathan Janz and Sam Hain Publishing. I somewhat recommend it. If you don't mind some continuity errors, if you don't mind what I think are annoying character traits, I just don't understand some of the motivations, but maybe you will. At least check it out. Look on Amazon. I don't know if there's sample chapters. I will be writing a review on Amazon. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. His other stuff I've given 5 out of 5, but I just don't feel that way about this one. So that's The Nightmare Girl. This is my very odd review of The Nightmare Girl, and I will have a link below in the descriptions for the book, so you can check it out for yourself. And I think with Sam Hain, at least, I'm going to put links for both Amazon and Sam Hain, because you can buy it directly from the publisher, and maybe they'll have an excerpt that you can check out and decide for yourself. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. I think after a comment I had recently, I may open up the comments to spoilers. I may invite spoilers. But if you do say anything spoilery, please have a spoiler warning first. If you have any questions, you want me to specify some of the things I kind of hinted at, just ask me in the comments. I'll have a big spoiler warning, and then I'll answer your question. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I think that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. A very weird one for me anyway. Weird episode. And until next time, read more books.